The goal of the show is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every single week by sharing the stories and advice of those rocking it on the other side. We also share advertising news you need to know in 60 seconds or less on our LinkedIn. It's unlike any other news source you have ever seen in this industry. I guarantee you that. Follow along, turn on post notifications. You will love it and get ahead. And today's guest is proof that sometimes staying can be just as powerful as moving. We're joined by Sinan Dagli, Executive Creative Director at BSSP. That's Butler, Shine, Stern and Partners, an independent agency in Sausalito, California, that's been shaping culture for over 3 decades. Sinan's story is rare. He's been at one agency for his entire career, 16 years, and has risen all the way from interactive designer, resizing banner ads for Radio Shack, to leading the entire creative and production departments. That's a big deal. In this episode, we talk about why he stayed, the 3 boxes every job needs to check, and how to build a world for your campaigns that makes great ideas easier to sell and scale. And we're going to break down BSSP's Bracket Brain campaign for ESPN and how they're helping brands like Noosa Yogurt stand out through bold storytelling. You're going to love this story. You're going to want to connect with Sinan. Check out BSSP. Have you been to Sausalito? Google it if you haven't. It's incredible. Follow us on LinkedIn. Follow him. You're going to love this. Now on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. And as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right. Sinan Dagli, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Doing well. I'm pumped to record with you. You are the Executive Creative Director at Butler, Shine, Stern and Partners, also known as BSSP.
Yes, sir.
Great shop. We'll tell your story. We'll talk about your best advice. This is like the only agency you work for, essentially. Is that correct?
That is 100%. I will go even further to say this is my first and only job.
Oh my goodness. You don't hear that a lot.
No.
People like to hop around in this industry.
Yeah.
Every couple of years for the promotion or new clients or, new bosses. Yeah. So I guess right there, what has kept you so long at this singular agency? I know you're in San Francisco, so there's nice weather there. But other than the weather, what's keeping you there?
Well, someone wiser than me once told me, and I forgot who told me that, so I'm not going to take full credit, but I can't credit back. There's 3 things you need from your job. Three main things that you have from the job, and then 2 things you have to check at all times, right? You need to have people, you like people that you work with, money, like we're not doing this for free. It's not pro bono. You need that money. You also need the opportunity. So at all times, you have to check 2 of those boxes, or mine goes outside. You immediately want to bounce. So I was very lucky to have those, I guess, 2 of those boxes checked at all times almost. And then whenever it's it's teetering on the not checking it, and then it just goes in. And sometimes all 3 are checked.
Yeah. But you need 2 out of 3. That's
2 out of 3.
Yeah. What's
100%.
the difference between, how would you define, so you said people, money, and opportunities.
Yeah.
So what do you define opportunities as?
I think it's, I think as a creative, sometimes you're outside looking in and oh, there's a Super Bowl brief there. I'm not on it. Oh, there's a cool, whatever, interesting campaign, for big brand or something. You want that at bat, right? You want that shot. And sometimes you don't get that shot, and it's a chicken egg situation. Sometimes oh, you're not on it because you haven't done it, and then you haven't done it because you're not on it. It's just that cycle. And someone needs to sort of say, you know what, you've been doing good stuff on this. Let's give it a shot. Why don't you, get on this brief? Give a few ideas in, and then that actually is how you start getting more opportunities. That's how I describe the opportunity. The people part is, when you think about how much we like spend with our colleagues in an agency environment, it has to be like, I don't know, a good chunk of your life almost. You can't really deal with like the people you do not jive with for extended periods of time. So that is very critical. Are people vibing with you? Are the vibes good? And then, at the same time, like, do you feel like you can grow with them? Are they pushing you also? So it's not like a complacent place where everyone's like, it's okay. I'm okay with this. Ambition is contagious. You need that. And when your partners and other teams, like, you're like, oh, they're crushing it over there, I need to crush as well. So
Got it. I got to go a little bit deeper, because what about the grass, like looking over the fence, I guess, if you will,
hmm
at other agencies? Like the grass is always greener, that
hmm
saying. But
yeah,
like, you have you have worked your way up now to executive
yeah,
creative director after 16 years. This is the only career you've had.
yeah,
At those moments when you were questioning, like, maybe I can make more, were there phone
yeah,
calls?
yeah,
How did you navigate that internally to say,
right,
no, I'm going to stick with it here? Because
right,
there are opportunities that pop up in
right.
this industry.
Oh, 100%. And like, I'm not gonna go ahead and say like, oh, I never took a call.
Yeah, yeah.
I took calls all the time. And I think, this is the unsolicited advice, like take calls all the time. Figure out your worth, where you land, as well. Because then that sort of, your mind is like spinning, like, am I doing the wrong thing by not staying or staying, etc. Um, for me, there's like also luck involved in this, right? Let's say you got a call and you're like, okay, I'm excited about this opportunity. I might take it. And then the Super Bowl brief comes in, you sold in a Super Bowl spot. Okay, turn the clock. Okay, we're gonna pause it for a bit. And then
Hmm.
when those actually land in succession, you kind of like look down, look back up, and it's like, oh, it's been 2 years.
Hmm.
So there's luck involved. Like, I can't really say it's incredible unicorn rainbows. I'm
Right.
part of this. Luck involved. I think a lot of people would probably attest to that. And then sometimes the luck goes the other way, right? You're not winning. You're not making stuff. You're not really. So then that will push you even further to look outside and even take something that is lateral, just to like reset the system a little bit. So I
Yeah.
I got lucky from that perspective as well.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Those down points when there is not a lot of work coming in. Every agency professional
Yeah,
experiences this. They look around, like, what can I be doing?
yeah,
Am I going to be laid off for any reason? Like, there are those down points.
right.
So for you, then, what did you say to yourself in those moments where not a lot of work was coming in?
Um, well, I think you need a good support system outside of the agency, because I think it could be uh, when you're on LinkedIn and seeing like, I'm humbled and honored,
Hmm.
promotion stuff, or like, check out this cool stuff that I've done and reposts and all that. It can actually put you in a place where you may think that you're falling so behind. Um, and then, but also someone legitimately who cares about you should say, it's okay. Like, it's not like this linear thing, A to B, um, the same speed, same pace, same
Right.
everything. I think a lot of people would also probably look back in, their career. They probably had like certain moments of like a little bit of a pause and slow, and then it just rockets up. So I think uh, you need a good support system, I would say. People also like outside of this industry,
Yeah.
your friends who don't know what's going on, they're like, you're doing the coolest stuff. Like, why? Don't worry. Like, this is so cool. And I think you need a little bit of that outside of the agency environment,
Yep.
which is helpful.
Totally. So let's understand your role today as
hmm
ECD at BSSNP. Uh, Tell me what it's like working at this shop. What are you guys all
hmm
about? And
hmm
we'll get into some of the clients potentially. But
Yeah.
let's get into today. What's the landscape like today, sir?
Today, let's say. So I lead up the creative and the production departments. And then, you know, my day to day is sort of looking at where I can be the most helpful, essentially.
Yeah.
But you know, you look at the how we work between teams and departments, we are pretty close with each other. So, uh, you know, everyone talks about how flat they are in the organization, but we are very close. So we can actually move very fast. And we have a certain taste level that everyone agrees upon, right?
Yeah.
I think that that is very critical when you're in an organization. Sometimes, like, oh, that person is not really the same. Like, they're not thinking, they're not on the same page as to what is good work, what is, you know, the craft that's needed to accomplish something. So, I think those things are we have a very good understanding. Strategy and creative are, you know, meshed together very, very closely, account the same way.
Yeah.
We also have a media department, and we call them up and say, like, hey, we have this crazy idea. Can you bolster this with some interesting thoughts to bring it back down to earth a little bit, like make it real? So all of those are incredible positives for us, which leads us to make a lot of work and a lot of good work, and also, you know, when you're close, you're kind of having fun, and that's like the part of the three things that I talked about. The people part is very critical.
And it's headquartered in San Francisco. Is that correct?
Yeah, in Sausalito, California. So we're outside. If your listeners have ever been to the area, it's like north of Golden Gate Bridge, like the first exit.
I'll tell you what, that's
So
a good
yeah,
spot. That's a
it
good
is a good
spot to
spot.
be.
Yeah, come on by.
And um, is it independent or is it a holding company owned? What's the
Yeah,
situation there?
so we're independent. This year's our 33rd year. So it was founded by John Butler, Greg Stern, and Mike Shine. They were uh, Mike and John were the creatives at Goodbee in 1993. They were the first ever team to break off from Goodbee to start their own agency, and then they
Hmm.
convinced Greg, who was the account guy on Sega, and they set up shop here in Sausalito, which is like, again, like it's a kind of an odd thing to do because at the time it's like, you know, people might not take you seriously if you're in Sausalito as an ad agency, but it's part of our ethos. It's sort of like outside in thinking, and that's how it started. Yeah, so 33 years of independence, and still going.
Yeah, I didn't know. It does make sense with Goodby being a large presence out there. That
Yeah.
yeah, there's a connection there.
You have
Um,
like the coaching tree of,
I
you
love
know,
it.
how like the Belichick or
Yeah,
someone's coaching tree, and then all these head coaches pop up. It's the same if you look at Goodby, like you have Venables and all these other places
we
around here
uh,
too. Yeah.
we are working on that now. Coaching trees, like advertising lineage.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like looking at David Droga, looking at like like a Lee Clow, like the
Yeah.
Goodby, Jeff Goodby, Rich
Hmm.
Silverstein. Like
Yeah.
there's so much you can trace so much from
Yeah.
those like iconic leaders and who they learned from, and then down and where they're
Yeah. All
off
the way up
to.
to Jay Chiat, and, you
Right.
know, because John and Mike, they, before they came to Goodby, they were in New York working at Jay Chiat, Chiat Day. So, and then
Yep.
they came here. So yeah, the
Yeah.
trees are everywhere.
And you learn, you take the best and the worst from those
Yeah.
leaders and you put it in your
Yeah.
own voice. And
100%.
so what's like the tone, the ethos of your agency today then? Like how do you guys interact? You said outside in, but
Hmm.
what do you say on the creds deck, I guess? What do you say internally? What are you
Yeah.
guys running with?
So outside in is the ethos, and if they actually peel the onion of us, it's like it comes from so many different parts of us, right? Like we are not in the usual where ad agencies are location wise, right? But also the people we are pushing for people who are not necessarily, here's the typical, sort of ad person that, works here. We have we try to find the people who are going to think outside of the box. So the outside in mindset is, I guess, ingrained everywhere, from the work, the way we think about the work. We don't necessarily say a brief comes in. Our goal is not to make this, hey, here's the 15, 30, whatever, 60-second thing, but think about it as a world building. Because we talked about it internally too, how people are experiencing brands are not this linear thing, right? You don't go in and everyone's going to see your 30-second ad is in 2025 is a naive thought. They see it in fragments. They see it in experiences. Every single touch point is a way to interact with your consumer. So instead of thinking about it from just paid, we think about it as a world. You build a world. You build a story around it. And that sort of, even though, let's say, they're not going to buy the collaboration idea, the tone of what we're trying to get through is ingrained in it. So that is part of also the outside thinking, how we can like maybe hack our way in and out of things, from outside.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It keeps everything on strategy. It allows for creative. You can push the boundaries creatively. You can go to the client like you agreed that this is our world. This is what it might potentially looks like with a mood board. This might be some like celebrities and some brands and partnerships. We gave you that in the beginning, that framework. We agreed upon it. So maybe a couple of weeks later, when you have a crazy idea, you can be like, hey, it's part of the world.
That's exactly. I mean, you couldn't have put it better. I think you put it better than I did. Because then when everyone's like agreeing on the world, this is the world, and you're in it, everyone becomes like an ambassador, and they become like this sort of the thought leaders inside the client side and here as well. So then you can call BS on each other like that's not, come on, that's not
different
part
world.
of that world. Yeah, that's a different world. That's not it. And then you sell ideas so much easier and quicker because then I know the tone. You said it, like the celebrities, right? Like we wouldn't partner with that celebrity. That influencer doesn't fit the ethos of this world, etc. So that's exactly it.
I love it. I love it. Tell me about a world that you guys have built recently.
Yeah,
that is like good example of all this.
So I'll give you two, and then maybe you can cut it out. But the first one is I think you might have even put that in one of the 60-second ones that you have done. It's called Bracket Brain. I'll just use that as the recent one for ESPN Tournament Challenge, the March Madness brackets. And it all stemmed from this strategy, found the data of the office productivity in the US drops by 22% during March.
Big time.
So that is a factual, something's happening. And the only thing that you can obviously look at, and March Madness definitely is one of the biggest sports moments of the year. I mean, it equates to like, obviously that's like why people are glued to it. So then we started thinking about what is happening to us during March. March turns on, something happens. And so we thought of this as like, it's almost a condition, this like bracket brain condition that you're sort of starting to hallucinate a little bit and imagining mascots and, the parking lot lines becoming brackets and, you're randomly thinking about Marquette that you've never thought of before. Like, oh, Marquette is that, they're going to be the underdog here and that. And that is, it's a bit of a truth, right? Like the truth of that is connected to the data that is like 22% productivity drop. So then we thought of that whole bracket brain world. What is that world? Is it a little whimsical? Is it like serious, like a pharma thing? Like then you start like thinking about where we can take that. And there are so many different ways and venues that we could have gone with that one. But then it becomes easier to talk to the clients like bracket brain. The second you said bracket brain, and here's the world, like any script we could have written would have been sold. Because we all agreed to that phenomenon almost.
Right. So the world was for the specific campaign. It's
Yeah,
not like it can be for specific campaigns. It doesn't have to
absolutely.
be, from day one, and a brand starts up is a startup, and you're not just coming in there creating that world for startups. You can come in there for campaigns, and then the specific ad spots are falling into that
Yeah,
world. But you could do it for,
right.
it could scale,
Yeah.
whatever that. Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
I think the other example of that, where let's build a world for this brand to be a permanent world. This is our world,
Hmm.
and it was for Noosa Yogurt. It is one of our
Oh,
clients,
nice. That's good
and
stuff.
they, yeah, we, the looking at the origin story of the yogurt. If you go to a yogurt aisle, there's like Icelandic yogurt, Greek yogurt, all these like origins, and then Noosa previously weren't really taunting the origin story, because I don't know, like Noosa is a place in Australia. It is a beach town in Australia. And the origin story is like this expat went to Noosa, the founder, and found the recipe. It was incredible, this yogurt recipe, and I got to bring it here. But we never like went deep into the origin story, and then we actually started actually digging deep, and then created the world called Flavor from Down Under, and this very colorful, sort of a not your stereotypical Aussie stuff like the, Vegemite and all that, but rather like a cool beach town type of vibe. And then we also imagine this world like there's the meme of Australia is actually upside down.
Hmm.
And we build a world that is outside upside down, and the 15 is like literally a kitchen build. We literally built it upside down, so the guy had to be rigged upside down, and then all the stuff is like falling up and down. And then the world doesn't stop there. Like, then where do we take it? We turned the website upside down. We turned even paid social, which is like, that's a courageous thing to do, like to turn your ads upside down where people cannot really read. But that actually worked so well. Then also partnerships, right? Like what can you do with like Australian Open? Then you have, things like maybe there's something that we can do with Duolingo. And then once we like build that world, and that deck is one of my favorite decks we built, uh, immediately like, oh, okay, this is who we are. This is how we talk. These are the things that we can do. And then it actually helps the other partners, right? Like, rarely one brand works with a single agency for every single thing,
Right.
social agency, influencer agency, so they know also
Right.
the world that they can contribute to.
You give them the playbook,
Yeah,
and yeah, that makes
100%.
sense. And the brands can use that for a long time.
Yeah,
Love it, man.
yeah,
Well, speaking of origin stories, we got to figure about yours and how you broke into this business. I know, yeah, I believe you're from Turkey. Is this correct, sir?
that is correct. Istanbul represent.
Nice, nice. So, how'd you, at what point did you realize you wanted to make ads for a living?
um so I have probably two obscure storylines here, but the first one is my uncle. When I was in high school, my uncle was a client at Wunderman Istanbul, and
Okay.
I you know, back in that day, I actually was super into online gaming. Like that was like the beginning of that, like sort of esports type of stuff. Like, I was super into Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
And I was like I needed to make a logo for the clan. I'm like learning how to make those like early on. And then I realized there's this whole world of like creation and graphic design, etc. I mean, I don't know. I'm like 14 probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I went, and he took me to Winderman offices one day, and I like fell in love with it. I'm like, okay, this is probably what I want to do, but I didn't know what that was. Then, sort of fast forward, I actually went to upstate New York for college. So I grew up in Istanbul all the way, high school, and then I ended up in Rochester, New York at RIT for this, major that is like new media design, which like focused on motion graphics, coding, film, like a lot of stuff that is not necessarily in theory, but like in practice. So you have to make so much stuff. And it was one of the first, I guess, curriculum wise, one of the first that used a lot of 3D modeling, etc. And and then after that, I fell in love with like opening title sequences randomly. And I don't know if, it's again another niche thing to get obsessed about, but like check out the opening of Seven. Like it's incredible. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm gonna do. This is the best thing of all time. And then, but then at the same time, it was the microsite era. Everyone was making these big microsites. Like Goodby was making like $1 million Got Milk website. And I was like, oh, okay, these are very cool. And then I graduated the worst time in 2009. I was like, crash economy is just completely gone. And then I wanted to be in New York. No one really responded to me as I was like trying to get a job. And then randomly BSSP found me because John Butler went to RIT. He's from Rochester. And then they needed like a interactive designer slash like digital person. And Radio Shack was my like I wouldn't say breaking and entering. I think it was like I just found like a door and I entered accidentally.
Yeah.
To do my job was effectively to make Radio Shack banner resizes for like a long time. But I had 1 year. They call it OPT. I don't know if they have that anymore. But if you have a student visa, optional practical training. So you have 1 year to convince an employer to say you're good. I'm going to sponsor you for a work visa. So I had a year to do that, and that's how it happened. Radio Shack, 4 megapixel Nikon camera banners that I was resizing.
You'll
That's how
never
it started.
forget. You'll never forget
Never
that
forget.
product. Interactive designer, got it. And then
Yeah,
that led you down the path and being creative. Did you go
yeah,
to like
and
art director? Did you ever land in that traditional art director role or
yeah.
copywriter role?
So I ended up as all this was happening, I started understanding what advertising was, right?
Mm.
Like, oh, this is what's happening. At the time, we had Mini and Columbia and Lucas Arts, like really cool, interesting brands. And I was mesmerized by what everyone was doing. I had no idea what a copywriter was. I don't know. I didn't go to an ad school, right? So ended up being in some of these briefs, and usually it's like, okay, here's the idea and all that. You got to do the banner. And then I kind of started finding my way into some of these briefs. And Radio Shack was so massive for an independent agency at the time. We had like I don't know, sometimes like 15 creatives on a
Oh, wow.
project, and
Damn.
then I'm like, okay, they put me on with a copywriter. I'm like, oh, okay, so we're gonna think about ideas. Like that's crazy. And then we thought of like a very easy like Radio Shack holiday banner. I mean, not banner, TV spot. And I was like the first one that I made. And then after that, like I'm hooked. I want more of this. So and then after that, okay, I understand how this works now. And when you're obsessed with it, you want to learn more and you want to push yourself to get to that next level. So uh, yeah, the rest of that is history.
And you stayed there for 16 years total, and
Yeah.
you're pretty damn high up, I would say. So that's really impressive, sir. Something you mentioned earlier was
Hmm.
when you're talking about the agency was this thing about taste.
Yeah.
Uh, your departments, all your coworkers have really strong, high taste.
Yeah.
So I'm curious then, I want to understand your taste and like, what would you say, like, what do you think the advertising community today like calls like the best work? And like, do
Hmm.
you agree with it? Do you disagree? What do you want to see more of? So what's like in the norms today is like really good ads.
I think there are good ads that are timeless ads, right? Like that would be very good still in the 90s or early 2000s. And then there are ads that are like speaking to that moment today, of, how we're actually engaged with culture, is so much different than before. Uh, that is, an obvious statement, but I think the ones that are understanding that is what I think is the best. Effectively, to in a nutshell, I would say it's the ads that do not feel like it. Like I'm not being sold. I'm actually in like that's why the world works, right? Like when you build a world, like you can invite people in it. And I think you look at, I mean, I'm fascinated with Outlander magazine, whatever they're posting on Instagram. You look at like what is Hermes doing with like some crazy collaboration, and that is to me, disguised, but it's an ad. It's an ad for that brand. I mean, it's a fragment of a brand. Like you're engaged with it, um, and that ethos can be applied to film, right? Like the stuff that you don't feel like it's actually following this like A to B structure. Those are the ones that I'm very curious about. Experiences are obviously incredible activations that a lot of people are doing right now. But I think the second you find that first the truth, so people don't feel like, oh, you fabricated something and I'm just watching something forced. That's why Bracket Brain worked, because people like, oh yeah, that's like what I have right now. And then you feel like this person is not fully giving you, here's the logo, here's the thing, and those are the ones that are, I think I'm mesmerized by. Like those are the ones that I would put at the top of the list.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I get it. And what's one non-negotiable belief you hold about doing great creative work? What has to happen?
Hmm. Wow. Okay. That reset my system for a second. Hold on.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
a good question. I think it is the non-negotiable is do you feel like, yeah, let me rephrase this. This
Take
is
your time.
actually
Take your time.
doing a little bit of a brain gymnastics for me. I guess what I'm trying to get at is it has to feel real in its core truth. Like if it's not, it just eventually it could be the best craft. It could be like you spent $10 million, you called Spike Jones, you did this whole thing, but at the end of the day, the core truth, um, it has to be there. I think that is the non-negotiable. When I talk about the truth, and I'm talking about it as from a consumer standpoint, can they actually be like, okay, that speaks to me in some capacity, and not for general pop, but like the people that you really want to capture.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll sniff it out for sure.
Yeah.
Just like with Bracket Brain,
Hmm.
that it's very true. People are distracted in March and
Yeah.
April.
Yeah.
They work less. They have other priorities. They care about their bracket and who they're up against, their family and friends and their
Yeah.
coworkers. That is the talk of the town during this period of the year, and productivity diminishes. So that was the truth. You built the world around it. That's what
Hmm.
that's what BSSP does really well, and
Hmm.
I think that's fantastic, sir. So that's all I got. I hope people can reach out to you. I hope they can say hello. If they're students, recent
Absolutely.
grads, they can pick your brain, or if it's a client listening and auditing, hovering
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
they're in the waters of Sausalito, like combing through in their next shop.
Yeah.
I hope they can reach out to you, sir.
Yeah. This was wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate the chat.
Right. Do you prefer LinkedIn or like an
LinkedIn,
email? Okay,
100%. LinkedIn
LinkedIn.
is shout out to LinkedIn, I would say.
It's the best.
They figured it out, and it is what a interesting sort of mix of people in one place, between a DP to a ceramic artist to a B2B SaaS salesperson. Like all of those people are like coexisting and being very active at the same time. So they figured it out.
Yes, they did. I love it. There's no excuse. Everybody go connect with everybody on LinkedIn. But
Yeah.
thank you again.